Hey, so I got diagnosed with ADHD at age 56, not at 8 years old, not at 28 years old, 56. Old enough to have a favorite blood pressure medication and still young enough to feel pissed off about it. And today I want to talk about something that's been coming up more and more. Older adults, people our age, who are wondering, should I seek a diagnosis? Or should I just keep doing what I've been doing and muscling through my life? I don't have a clean answer for you. I have a messy one, which honestly feels more appropriate. For most of my life, I thought I was just broken or damaged, like a smoke detector with a dying battery that beeps once every now and then, and you just learn to ignore it. I thought everyone lost their keys every week. I thought everyone reread the same paragraph 6 times before it finally sank in. I thought everyone sat down to do a task and then got distracted and researched the history of Eastern European klezmer music, and then 4 hours later never did the original task. But turns out, no, that's not everyone. That's ADHD. When I finally got my official diagnosis from a neuropsychiatrist, I sat in my car in the parking lot and just sat there. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about a late in life diagnosis. It doesn't exactly feel like relief. It feels like they just handed you the manual for the car you've been driving for 50 years, blindfolded. There's a researcher named Kathleen Nadeau, and she talks about how tricky it is to diagnose ADHD in older adults, partly because you have to untangle it from things like cognitive decline, normal aging, and then figure out what the biggest life challenges are specifically for older adults who are navigating this. It's not the same conversation as diagnosing an 8-year-old. It's much messier. It's layered under decades of coping mechanisms, other diagnoses, and in my case, a truly impressive collection of half-read books. Okay, so here's the good part, and it's genuinely good. I stopped thinking I was damaged like that. That's not nothing. That was actually everything for me. I started learning how my brain actually works instead of fighting it like it was a stubborn mule. I found systems, actual functioning systems, for managing my attention instead of just white knuckling through life and hating myself afterwards. And weirdly, I got really creative, like a door opening in my head creative. There's this whole idea that the education system in this country treats creativity like a dessert. Like, oh, you get the goodie after you get the real learning done. And I think a lot of us with ADHD brains spent our whole lives thinking that our creativity was the extra, the distraction, the thing we had to suppress in order to get the real learning done. But post diagnosis me said, no, hell no. The creativity is the real thing. That's not a bug, that's a feature. And this is the part people don't put in their highlight reels. There's grief in this too. I spent a solid chunk of time mourning a version of myself that never got the chance to exist. The one who knew that I was different when I was a kid, but didn't know why. The one who didn't have to apologize for being too extra or too scatterbrained. The one who asked for accommodations in college instead of white knuckling it and getting a C minus and a lecture about potential. You don't get that time back. The diagnosis doesn't come with a time machine. It just comes with clarity. And clarity is a double-edged sword. It shows you the path forward, but it also shows you very clearly the path you already walked and why it was so much harder than it should have been. Now, and this is important, I know there are people watching this and thinking, yeah, well, maybe I don't want a diagnosis. And honestly, I get it. If you're 61 and you've spent 50 some odd years building elaborate, functional coping mechanisms, sticky notes, routines, a spouse who's your executive function assistant. Some people look at that system and go, well, it's ugly, but it works. Why would I want to poke at it after all these years? There's an entire world of people who feel like a late in life diagnosis is just unnecessary. Like wondering if what's always been wrong with you might just be undiagnosed ADHD is a rabbit hole that just doesn't need digging at this point in your life. You've masked so long that the mask grew into your actual face. Why take it off now? And that's fair. That's a completely valid way to think. Not everyone needs a label to feel whole. Some people need the opposite, need to not reopen old wounds. They just need to keep the machine running the way it always has been. Here's what I'll say as someone who's been living on the other side of that. A diagnosis didn't fix my life. It didn't erase the hard years. It didn't undo the report cards or the jobs I lost or the relationships I strained because I forgot things that mattered to people I loved. But it did give me language, and language is powerful. I have ADHD hits much differently than, oh, I'm so scattered, or I'm just bad at life. One of those is a diagnosis. The other two are just decades of shame wearing a trench coat. So here's what I want to actually ask you, because I don't think this is my call to make for anyone else. If you've made it this far in life with your systems, your coping mechanisms, your hard-won version of functional, is a diagnosis something that would free you? Or is it something that would just poke at the hornet's nest for no functional gain? Would knowing change how you treat yourself? Would it change how you plan the years you have left? Or have you already built the life you need, scaffolding and all, and a piece of paper from a doctor isn't going to improve on that? I genuinely don't know the answer for you. I only know mine. So tell me in the comments, are you in the get the diagnosis camp or the keep on keeping on camp? And more importantly, why? Let's actually talk about it, because I think we've spent enough of years of our lives being quiet about this. I'll see you in the comments. I feel this subject is so important. I want to reach as many people as possible with it. So please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.